If you're going to buy one new book for starting out your medical internship, what should it be? Well, find out in this video. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm the Career Doctor. I make videos to help you better manage your medical career. So if you like this video, then leave us a like or a comment below. And if you're a returner to this video series, then why don't you just turn on subscriptions and notifications so you can find out when the next video is occurring. So we're getting to the end of the calendar year here in Australia, which means the end of the university year and the transition for final year medical students from being a final year student into finally becoming a fully fledged doctor and undertaking the internship here in Australia. And that's coming up fairly quickly for those young doctors, so it's an exciting time. So I was teaching with my own bunch of interns and residents today, and I thought I'd ask them for some recommendations for medical students that are now transitioning into internship. And I specifically asked them what sort of book would they recommend that someone might buy if they are commencing their internship. My day, I remember when we were hitting the wards as an intern, we kind of felt a little bit more confident if we had something we could put in our coat pocket or our trouser pocket, so our pocket handbook that sort of helped us deal with some of those tricky common situations, particularly when you're working after hours or evenings or at night on the wards. And so I said to them today, about 12 of them, what would you recommend someone should buy? So I'm just going to take you through their recommendations. And you might be surprised as what they came up with. So the first thing that they said to me was, before buying any particular new book for being an intern, it might just be worth exploring what your local hospital already provides for you in regards to resources. Now, in many hospitals, there's a bunch of resources that are given out to new interns. You will probably be given some paper-based resources, as well as more lately these days, electronic resources, things that go from sort of the practical side of the sort of things like how to get paid, how to put in for leave, how to swap a shift, to things like hospital phone numbers and pager numbers and protocols, to maybe even some guidelines and things for things like how to prescribe warfarin or nighttime sedation, that sort of stuff. So that was a very good point, I thought, because sometimes the hospital can provide a lot of stuff. When I have interns, we even sometimes give them some copies of the therapeutic guidelines in psychiatry. Yeah, it makes sense to find out what you might be given beforehand. And in the case of many of the interns working in New South Wales, they get quite a lot of resources. In fact, a number of the interns in New South Wales actually get a specific app, which I'm going to show you, which has a whole bunch of stuff on it that may actually replicate what you might need in a on-call book or something like that. The second point they made is also check out any resources that are available more broadly. Particularly, most of the state health services have additional things that you can use, and I'm going to show you some of those too. And then when it comes to actually selecting a book, and many of them did actually choose to buy a book at the end of the day, their first thing was to say, don't get too many books, just pick one, maybe two that just fit your specific need, and don't go too overboard. And finally, the last thing that they recommended is, if you do get a book, check out whether it's available on your smartphone. Can you download it to Kindle on your smartphone or Kobo on your smartphone? Because maybe that makes it a little bit easier carrying it around, particularly when you're doing your on-call or after-hours work. As I said, I remember my day, we were kind of one of the key deciding factors in terms of getting a book to help was, would it easily fit in a pocket somewhere so you could carry around with you reasonably discreetly, pull it out, check it out, put it back in. So you didn't want a huge book. So I guess now with books being available electronically on smart devices, probably means you can get a book that probably has a bit more content, but you can carry that around on your phone. So, before we get on to the book recommendations, which we'll finish up with, I'll just show you a few things that are available to some of the interns in my part of Australia, that's around Newcastle and the Hunter, New England region. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is that, as I said, the interns and residents, and actually all the other doctors now in my health service, get this thing called Resident Guide, and it's available in a number of other health services in New South Wales and now also in Queensland, and I believe in a couple of other places now too. And it's proving quite popular. It's actually an app that was designed by a junior doctor themselves, or a trainee doctor themselves, by the name of Rob. And I have to do a disclosure here. I actually have had a little bit to do with helping out Rob in establishing this app. And I do have a small amount of investment in this app. However, I had nothing to do with the decision by my own health service to purchase it for other doctors. But I thought it's just worth highlighting that there are apps now available that are there to help trainee doctors. And I guess they kind of blend both having sort of general information about things to do, like after hours, how to deal with patients with pain or delirium, that sort of stuff, along with the sort of local hospital stuff like how do I get an x-ray, how do I call the cardiology registrar, that sort of thing. So that's the website Resident Guide, and I'll put a link to Resident Guide in the description below. I'll probably put the link to the website, but I think the key thing is that you can actually download a free version of the app on your Android or iPhone store, so I'll put some links to that as well, and you can test drive it for yourself. And maybe if you're a medical student about to become an intern in a hospital that doesn't have this Resident Guide, maybe you could ask them why they haven't had a look into it, because I think it is a very handy thing. It actually, the value proposition is it's saving interns and residents a bunch of time in the app, finding things that would take them a lot longer to do by looking them up on the hospital intranet or going through paper manuals, that sort of thing. So what we're going to do now is switch over to the phone, so just bear with me. So this is Resident Guide. This is actually the developer version of the app. So some of the functionality here is not available in the current version, but probably will soon. And this is what my interns get. So they get a section on admin and HR, things about ordering tests, clinical information, consults and referrals, and even a handy staff directory with information on the hospital. And it's probably won't work, but some of these phone numbers actually will allow you to call directly from your phone as well. So it's kind of a really handy device with both helpful information about dealing with clinical scenarios blended with the actual local hospital information as well. So the other thing that the interns and residents mentioned is that in New South Wales, if you're an employee of New South Wales Health, you get a whole bunch of access to different resources and handy tools online, and it's called the Clinical Information Access Portal. And you can see here what you get as a New South Wales Health employee. I think employees in other states are often envious of this, but they do often have similar things. So you can get access to guidelines and a whole bunch of journals and books and databases, things where you can look up interactions for medications, etc. But one thing with the CIAP portal is what you can do is actually download a whole lot of mobile applications, and I'm just going to show you what's available there. So through CIAP you can get things like up-to-date, very well recognised evidence-based set of tools and resources, all the therapeutic guidelines, as well as BMJ best practice, and of course up the top here you can get access to IMIMS as well, even Cochrane, all the drug reference apps. There's a bunch of things there that you can download essentially for free that might actually substitute for needing an on-call type book either on your phone or carrying around in a physical way. So then what about actual book recommendations? So I'm just going to take you through the top 3 book recommendations that my interns and residents gave me today, and all of these are actually books that are obviously available in a physical sense as well as an electronic sense, and some of them actually have some additional resources attached to them. 2 of the 3 recommendations are actually by Australian authors, and so I think that's important because the local context is often good to get in some of these resources. So I'm going to take you through those, and the other thing to say is I'll put links to where you can find all 3 of these. There's actually going to be 4, all 3 of these books online. Those links will actually be affiliate links, so if you do end up purchasing them, a small amount of that comes back to help with this channel, which I truly appreciate. So the first and the highest recommendation that I got from my intern residents was a book, or actually a couple of books called On Call. And I actually remember myself, I think I had like the first or second edition of this book in 1997 when I was an intern at the Canberra Hospital. I think it's been updated quite a bit since then, and this is one of those ones that's actually by some Australian authors. You might, or at least has an Australian author in it, you might recognise the name Mike Cadogan, who's quite famous from Life in the Fast Lane, a website that a lot of interns and residents refer to. So you can either get the sort of longer version, both of these are available in ebook. I don't think this kind of fuller versions may be right for putting in your pocket, but then you've got the On-Call Principles and Protocols pocket version of that resource. So that's the first one, and the one that most of them actually recommended is if you're going to buy one, buy this. And as I remember using that late at night to work out what to do about things like low urine output and interpreting investigation results, etc. The next one is a British book, but I know a lot of my colleagues, when I was going through medical school and even as an intern resident, were quite a fan of the Oxford textbooks, and I hadn't realised that, and these ones come in pocket books that do go into a coat. I hadn't realised they'd come up with one for the foundation program. So the foundation program is like the intern and resident program in the UK. So the latest guidelines on what to do for interns and residents, and so some of the information there, particularly things like death certificate notification, I reckon would possibly not be as relevant, but that's an alternative to the On-Call book. And then the final one that my interns and residents mentioned as maybe being helpful, possibly more for emergency or urgent things, is the book Emergency Medicine Diagnosis and Management. And again, a couple of the authors are the same here, Brown and Cadogan from Life in the Fast Lane. So there you go. They are the book recommendations from my interns and residents. What you might want to consider if you're going into internship next year. So as I said, if you found this video helpful, leave a like or a comment, and if you're here for more than once, then why not subscribe and turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next video.